The Avatar's job is to maintain balance in the world, which wouldn't be so hard if there weren't some seriously out-of-balance baddies out there. I mean, combustion benders, evil princesses, dictators, and that's not even half of it. Check out the timelines of some of Avatar's most notorious wrongdoers.
And when you need more goodness in the world, join us on our award-winning podcast, Avatar, Braving the Elements.
From growing up an orphan to conquering nations, Kuvira was one of Team Avatar's most dangerous foes. But how did this master metalbender eventually redeem herself? Well, get ready to find out. This is Kuvira's complete timeline in The Legend of Korra. By her own admission, the future military leader claimed that she was a wild and arrogant child. Born and raised in the Earth Kingdom, other than strictly punishing her, Kuvira's mother and father did little in terms of hands-on parenting. Due to the constant disciplining, Kuvira developed her bending talents by lashing out. Eventually, the earthbending prodigy injured her mother during an outburst, and that was the last straw. Kuvira's parents arranged for her to be adopted by a metalbender strong enough to handle her behavior. Waiting at the gates of Zaofu was a former wild child herself, Suyin Beifong. Despite a warm reception, the fact that Kuvira's parents cast her aside would forever haunt her. Remaining difficult, the new family member didn't get along with her siblings. Showing early signs of trouble, Kuvira at one point destroyed her adopted sister Opal's dollhouse with a terrifying display of metal bending. Suyin often tried to intervene, but this pattern of behavior persisted throughout Kuvira's entire childhood. Arguably, Kuvira's fear and vulnerability during this time was the prime catalyst for her violent future. Suyin nevertheless raised her adopted daughter like her own, and Kuvira grew out of her wild child phase. The talented metalbender then began performing in Zaofu's dance troupes, which honed her abilities even further. Kuvira was also discovered to be a natural leader. Quickly rising through the ranks, she became captain of the city's guard. Not long after, Kuvira met Team Avatar and fought by their side against the Red Lotus. Following a fight in which Kuvira saved the life of Korra's father, we saw a rare glimpse of her compassionate side.
I owe you my life. Thank you, Captain.
You can call me Kuvira.
Soon, the Red Lotus was defeated. When Suyin was approached with an offer to reunite the Earth Kingdom, however, she refused. This decision was the start of a rift with Kuvira, who argued that Zaofu's progressive ideals should be spread far and wide.
If you leave now, you will never be welcomed back.
When I choose to return, it'll be on my own terms.
Drawing a line in the sand, Kuvira left with a small army to make peace in Ba Sing Se. Defying the odds, she was successful. Gaining the trust of world powers, Kuvira was then appointed the de facto leader of the Earth Kingdom, with her soon-to-be fiancé and Suyin's son, Batar Jr., as second in command. The Great Uniter, as Kuvira was named, then assembled a massive army to enforce her rule. For their allegiance, the Great Uniter offered supplies and protection to Earth Kingdom states, which she was glad to personally dole out herself. While most leaders initially turned her away, the daily threat of bandits looting food supplies allowed Kuvira to take over the Earth Kingdom.
I pledge my loyalty to you, Great Uniter.
Soon, Kuvira arrived in Republic City and denounced the rule of the new Earth King. Appointing herself the leader, the Great Uniter informed the public that she was building a new Earth Empire.
Anyone who crosses our borders or stands in our way will be crushed.
Kuvira planned to make good on her promise and secretly tasked the genius inventor Varric to develop a weapon powered by Spirit Vine energy.
From now on, developing this technology is your #1 priority.
This is going to change everything.
Kuvira then mobilized her army to take control of the last unoccupied territory, her home of Zaofu. Avatar Korra soon arrived, and while she tried to negotiate peacefully, a failed kidnapping attempt by Suyin complicated things. Unafraid, Kuvira challenged Korra to a one-on-one duel for the fate of Zaofu. Reluctantly, she accepted. When the fight began, the Avatar used every element at her disposal. On paper, Kuvira was at a disadvantage, but she kept the upper hand with quick changes between earth and metal attacks. While Korra was clearly strong enough to defeat Kuvira in the Avatar state, she refused to deliver a killing blow.
I knew you were weak.
Fortunately, Jinora and Opal were close by, and as they narrowly escaped, Kuvira proclaimed her victory.
Zaofu is ours!
Once inside the city, Kuvira ordered the citizens to kneel before her. Most complied, but her family refused, and in response, Baatar Jr. had a public temper tantrum.
Bow to her! Do it! She is your rightful leader!
After Varric and Bolin escaped Kuvira's capture, she tasked Baatar Jr. and Zhu Li to pick up where they left off on her new superweapon.
This area is overrun with spirit vines, and they appear to be even more powerful than the samples we took from Republic City.
Perfect. Harvest these vines until there's nothing left.
A few weeks later, Kuvira traveled to the factory where a giant spirit energy cannon was being assembled. When the weapon malfunctioned, Kuvira was immediately suspicious of Zhu Li and discovered she was a double agent.
You swore your loyalty to me, and I gave you a chance at greatness. This is how you repay me?
You're a monster. I regret nothing.
The alarm signaling Team Beifong's prison break sounded only moments later. Upon being freed and beyond disappointed, Su Yin then launched a deadly assault upon Kuvira. Although they fought hard, Team Beifong was cornered and nearly defeated before Toph showed up.
You give metal benders a bad name!
Now possessing an operational superweapon, Kuvira informed her troops about their next target.
This land belongs to the people of the Earth Empire, and it's time to take it back. Republic City will be ours!
Upon arriving in Republic City, Kuvira brushed aside the president's threats, and in a matter of seconds, sank the United Forces Navy to prove her point.
I have no choice.
Time's up.
Stop! We surrender. Republic City is yours.
While Kuvira was stationed behind the impenetrable walls of her mecha suit, Team Avatar realized Baatar Jr. was vulnerable in an airship flying above the city. With a stealth group of airbenders, Team Avatar kidnapped Baatar Jr. and attempted to use him as leverage to stop the mecha suit. Kuvira took the opportunity, however, to let her fiancé know their engagement was off.
Guys, she must have our location. She's pointing that weapon right at us.
No, she wouldn't.
Everyone out! Now! Now!
Miraculously surviving, Team Avatar then launched attack after attack with zero effect. It wasn't until Hiroshi Sato sacrificed his life that Team Avatar was able to penetrate the platinum exterior of Kuvira's mecha suit.
Initiate lockdown. Find the Avatar and whoever else is with her.
Sensing that Su Yin and Lin successfully disabled the Spirit Vine cannon, Kuvira violently tossed the arm free, but was caught off guard by Korra. The two Master Benders then began the rematch of their lives. While Korra was back at her full strength, Kuvira was still the superior metal bender, and she was equipped with a whole room filled with ammo. If Mako and Bolin hadn't destroyed the engine room of the mecha suit, the once great uniter might not have lost this fight. When the dust settled, Korra carried out an unconscious Kuvira from the wreckage.
It's over. You're gonna call off your army and surrender to President Raiko. Then you and...
Injured but refusing to surrender, Kuvira fled into the nearby spirit wilds, desperate to make one last move.
If you really want to end it, then come and get me! Now it's over.
Don't!
The spirit energy cannon began to interact with the surrounding vines and was overloaded with power. Kuvira tried to shut it down manually, but the weapon was already out of control. Fortunately, the Avatar was close by, and she selflessly deflected the weapon. The redirected energy then opened a portal into the spirit world where Kuvira and Korra were transported. The now fragile-looking commander of the Earth Empire was immediately confused why Korra would have saved her.
You don't understand anything about me.
I do. Sue told me how she took you in when you were younger. It must have been so hard being an orphan.
Don't pretend you know what it felt like.
Korra admitted to Kuvira that she lived in fear and would have done anything to regain control after being poisoned by the Red Lotus. As the two connected for the first time, there was a change in Kuvira as she realized that even someone as strong as an Avatar can still feel afraid. Supported by Korra, Kuvira walked back to Republic City and surrendered with dignity.
Stand down. This battle is over. I owe the Avatar my life. Her power is beyond anything I could ever hope to achieve.
The former Great Uniter accepted her shackles and meekly apologized before being taken to prison. Sometime later, Kuvira was put on trial for what could only be a very long list of crimes. When asked for her plea, the former Great Uniter claimed her numerous apologies and positive achievements were enough to satisfy her punishment. With the judges at their wits' end, they asked again for Kuvira's plea, to which she replied, not guilty. What exactly was Kuvira thinking here? Even in the best-case scenario, she hurt thousands of people. As the courtroom was dismissed, Suyin lashed out at her adopted daughter for not accepting responsibility. Remaining stoic, the Master Metalbender returned to solitary confinement, chained to the unbendable platinum of her prison cell. Kuvira then waited for months, reliving past trauma in her mind over and over again without a single visitor. If you forget the horrible things she's done, you could almost feel sorry for her. It just so happened, however, that a rebel group of Earth Empire soldiers still refused to surrender to the United Forces. Not long after, Kuvira received her first visitor when Avatar Korra asked for information on the rebels. As it turned out, their leader Guan was previously under the command of Kuvira, and Team Avatar realized she could help keep negotiations peaceful. Korra then secured release papers, and with an eerie smile, Kuvira entered into Team Avatar's custody. Upon arriving in the state of Gaoling and actually speaking with Guan, Kuvira quickly decided against peaceful negotiations. Smartly planning ahead, Asami knocked out the Metalbender via remote shock. A breathless Guan then promised to take power with a fair election instead of a fight, and Team Avatar was left to formulate a new plan. It was decided that Korra asked for help from Toph, but as soon as she left, Guan's forces ambushed the other members of Team Avatar. If Kuvira hadn't overreacted earlier, Bolin, Mako, and Asami might have stood a fighting chance. Instead, the rebels won and captured them. Upon returning to Gaoling, Kuvira was then forced to witness the effect of Guan's strange new weapon on her uneasy allies. Influenced by the techniques of the Dai Li secret police, the Earth Empire rebels had developed an irreversible brainwashing machine. With the flick of a switch, Bolin, Mako, and Asami were now sworn enemies of the Avatar. Terrified but maintaining her composure, Kuvira saw an opportunity and broke free. The Metalbender then single-handedly brought down a building on top of Guan and escaped his compound. At this point, Kuvira could have easily gone into hiding and avoided spending her life in prison. Taking responsibility for her actions, however, the former child of Zaofu made the toughest call of her life. Swallowing her pride, Kuvira contacted her adopted mother for help. Soon after, Kuvira tracked down Korra and let her know about her friends being captured. With Toph present to confirm the truth, Suyin arrived just as Guan's forces prepared to attack with the brainwashed members of Team Avatar. Kuvira fought back and helped save Asami, but with no way to reverse the brainwashing, she was still as much of an enemy as Guan. Determined to find a solution, Kuvira called the one person who could reverse engineer a cure, the ex-fiancé who she nearly killed. Sorry, Kuvira. You set yourself up for a challenge with this one. While neither enjoyed the reunion, Baatar Jr. eventually agreed to help for the greater good. Using her near photographic memory, Kuvira described Guan's brainwashing machine in enough detail that Baatar Jr. could build one himself. Soon, Asami's brainwashing was reversed, and after a brief moment of reconciliation with Baatar Jr., Kuvira launched a one-woman mission to stop Guan. Expertly remaining undetected, Kuvira snuck into Guan's office and brokered a deal to rejoin the Earth Empire if she allowed herself to be brainwashed. Here we see Guan might not be the military mastermind he claimed to be, as Kuvira easily bent the machine into scrap metal before he turned it on. Now living up to her former name, the Great Uniter fought off Bolin, Mako, and the rest of the rebel forces alone before reinforcements arrived. Upon catching up to Guan and recognizing the change in herself, Kuvira walked away before ending his life. The Earth Empire prisoners got their brainwashing cured, and with the crisis in Gaoling over, Kuvira willingly returned to her cell. At her follow-up trial, she made a new plea to the court confessing to all of her crimes, and for the first time gave a heartfelt apology. Outside the courtroom, Team Avatar expressed their newfound respect for the former dictator. Upon witnessing the positive change in her adopted daughter, Suyin convinced the court to release Kuvira into her custody. Technically, she was still under house arrest, but after many years apart, Kuvira was finally able to go home. As far as what the future holds for this unlikely hero and all the adventures ahead, that's all we know for now. This is the complete timeline of the short but explosive life of Combustion Man. From Zuko's personal bounty hunter to one of the most dangerous and terrifying adversaries ever, this Combustion Bender was as mysterious as he was powerful. That said, we still don't know much about his origin. We never learned how he came to master his rare form of firebending or his true name. Sokka volunteered an option not so well received.
What do you think of Sparky Boom Man? Just think about it.
Before landing on something more appropriate.
Hey, I got it! The perfect name for that guy! Combustion Man!
Good job, Sokka. Now let's get out of here before Combustion Man catches us.
See? It fits so well!
What we do know is that Combustion Man wouldn't have much to say about it. A man of few words, he let his actions speak for him.
I've heard about you. They say you're good at what you do, and even better at keeping secrets.
He stood over 7 feet tall, and his menacing metal prosthetics did offer some visual clues to his past. Firebending is unpredictable and dangerous, and learning any form of it carries risks. Both Aang and Zuko experienced this firsthand. Combustion Man also lost control as a young firebender in training, and his limb loss was due to accidental self-inflicted injuries.
That's rough, buddy.
Eventually, Combustion Man received his mechanical arm and leg, and wasn't slowed down in the slightest. Upon gaining control of his bending, he became infamous after winning a series of Agni Kais. He then began a successful career as a mercenary and assassin, using his newfound notoriety in the Fire Nation. This was how he and Zuko came to meet.
The Avatar's alive. I want you to find him and end him.
Combustion Man accepted the job and tracked the location of Aang with his trained Raven Eagle. Team Avatar's journey might have ended right there if not for Toph's seismic sense.
Guys, you're all gonna think I'm crazy, but it feels like a metal man is coming.
This attack was our first look at Combustion Man in action. Notice that tattoo? It wasn't just for show. It was a physical representation of his third eye chakra. By channeling energy through this point on his forehead, Combustion Man could trigger explosions. But how exactly did he generate these deadly attacks? Iroh's teachings provide an answer.
Power in firebending comes from the breath, not the muscles. The breath becomes energy in the body. The energy extends past your limbs and becomes fire.
Before Combustion Man could unleash his ability, he had to connect his mind and body through deep breathing. Control of the diaphragm is essential to this process. Aang only survived their first confrontation by outthinking his enemy. During their next encounter, Combustion Man captured Toph and Katara to draw the Avatar out into the open.
That's her. That's the girl you were looking for.
Aang and Sokka were soon on the run for their lives.
Sokka, watch out!
Just like the first time, the young Avatar could barely keep up.
out of here.
It was here, though, that Toph exposed the one weakness of combustion benders, a direct hit to their third eye. This technique seemed to disrupt Combustion Man's flow of energy, similar to chi blocking. The real danger was that he could still generate the same explosive force. It just became uncontrollable, and when he attacked again, the technique backfired. Combustion Man found Aang traveling on a Fire Nation train only a few weeks later. Living up to his reputation, the assassin walked in and just started blasting. The train and its passengers were in grave danger. Having learned from past battles, Aang used his airbending to trick Combustion Man into chasing him. He lured the assassin to the roof and found just what he needed to end the fight as the train passed over a river. But Combustion Man wasn't through with Team Avatar yet, and eventually he caught up with them at the Western Air Temple. Now that he was Team Avatar's ally, Zuko was powerless to stop Combustion Man, who wanted his revenge more than anything else.
If you keep attacking, I won't pay you! All right! I'll pay you double to stop!
The Fire Nation Prince only survived out of sheer luck. Team Avatar threw everything they had at Combustion Man, but their bending couldn't reach him. The Combustion Bender, however, had no problem attacking from long range.
He's going to blast this whole place right off the cliffside!
Proving his inventiveness once again, Sokka had a trick up his sleeve. He calculated the perfect angle.
All right, buddy, don't fail me now.
And let his boomerang fly. Combustion Man didn't even know what hit him.
Yeah, boomerang!
Blinded with rage, the assassin channeled a massive amount of chi into his third eye. When he tried to release the energy, the explosion erupted only a few inches in front of his face. Now only the legacy of Combustion Man would live on. In the years that followed, Team Avatar would never forget the terrifying fight.
In my years, I have encountered people born with rare and unique bending abilities. I once bested a man with my trusty boomerang who was able to firebend with his mind.
We wouldn't see another Combustion Bender until the Red Lotus showed up.
We built this place secretly with your father to hold a very special prisoner. She's a powerful firebender named Pali who can create explosions with her mind. Ironically, I hired a guy with a similar ability to kill the Avatar myself once. Didn't work.
While Pali's origin is still mostly unknown, perhaps she and Combustion Man both learned their dangerous abilities from the same source. We can only speculate, but what we do know is that the price of practicing this deadly art may be too high no matter how skilled the user.
How did Azula go from this to this? And did she find redemption after the series ended? Here is the full timeline of Azula's rise and fall. To understand this moment, we have to start at the very beginning, with Azula's childhood.
Everything always came easy to her. She's a firebending prodigy. My father says she was born lucky. He says I was lucky to be born.
Even as a kid, Azula is cunning and Machiavellian. She's already decided she'd rather be feared than loved.
You'll never catch up.
Azula learned early on that being powerful, perfect, and pitiless was the way to gain her father's approval.
Great-grandfather won because...
Because even though his army was outnumbered, he cleverly calculated his advantages. The enemy was downwind and there was a drought. Their defenses burned to a crisp in minutes.
Correct, my dear.
So she uses the same tactics to get her mother's attention. Burning flowers, dolls, and her brother.
It's time for a talk.
Ursa's scolding only fuels Azula's belief that her mother doesn't really love her.
What is wrong with that child?
Azula's strained relationship with her mother only strengthens her loyalty to Ozai.
Dad's going to kill you. Really, he is.
Haha, Azula. Nice try.
Fine, don't believe me. But I heard everything. Grandfather said Dad's punishment should fit his crime. You must know the pain of losing a firstborn son by sacrificing your own.
Dad would never do that to me.
Your father would never do what to you? What is going on here?
Azula tells her mother about Ozai's plan, directly leading to Ursa's disappearance.
Where's Mom?
No one knows. Oh, and last night, Grandpa passed away.
Not funny, Azula. You're sick. And I want my knife back, now.
Who's going to make me? Mom?
After Ozai becomes the Fire Lord, Azula seems ready to supplant Zuko as heir to the throne. So just a few years later, Azula watches with a smile while her father burns and banishes her brother. In the 3 years of her brother's banishment, young Azula transforms herself into a fearsome firebender and a brilliant strategist, just as cold-blooded and ambitious as her father.
Iroh is a traitor, and your brother Zuko is a failure. I have a task for you.
Azula, who thinks love and trust make her opponents weak, uses this to lure Zuko into her trap.
Father's changed his mind. Family is suddenly very important to him. He's heard rumors of plans to overthrow him. Treacherous plots. Family are the only ones you can really trust. Father regrets your banishment. He wants you home.
You lied to me!
Like I've never done that before.
Then she reunites with her friends, May and Ty Lee. And when we say reunites with her friends, what we really mean is manipulates and threatens her friend.
Set the net on fire.
The universe is giving me strong hints that it's time for a career change. I want to join you on your mission.
When she finds out the Avatar's on the loose, she decides to do what Zuko couldn't.
So we're tracking down your brother and uncle, huh? It'll be interesting seeing Zuko again, won't it, May?
It's not just Zuko and Iroh anymore. We have a third target now.
One-upping her brother isn't enough, so when she tracks the Avatar to Ba Sing Se, she does what even the brilliant General Iroh couldn't do.
The Earth Kingdom will finally fall, and you can claim Ba Sing Se in the name of your father.
We've done it, Zuko. It's taken 100 years, but the Fire Nation has conquered Ba Sing Se.
Basically, Azula saw capturing the Avatar as just a side quest. And she decided to casually take over the Earth Kingdom too. You know, while she was in the neighborhood. That's how ambitious she is. What other members of her family spend years trying to accomplish, Azula sees as just a tiny step in an even bigger plan to consolidate her power. The fall of Ba Sing Se is Azula's mightiest moment, but it doesn't last. Before we dive into Azula's downfall, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Okay, back to Azula.
Don't let me interrupt your whatever it is you were doing.
So after Azula conquers Ba Sing Se, she and Zuko return to the Fire Nation. Even though Zuko is restored as heir to the throne, let's be honest, Azula's still in charge, pulling all the strings.
What could I possibly gain by letting you get all the glory for defeating the Avatar? Unless somehow the Avatar was actually alive. All that glory would suddenly turn to shame and foolishness. But you said yourself, that was impossible. Sleep well, Zuzu.
With Zuko under her thumb and her loyal friends following all her orders, Azula lets her guard down for just a second on Ember Island.
Those were wonderful performances, everyone.
I guess you wouldn't understand, would you, Azula? Because you're just so perfect.
Well, yes, I guess you're right. I don't have sob stories like all of you. I could sit here and complain how our mom liked Zuko more than me, but I don't really care. My own mother thought I was a monster. She was right, of course, but it still hurt.
This tiny dent in Azula's emotional armor explains so much about her character. Azula decided long ago that it was better to be feared than loved because she didn't think she could be loved. If her own mother thought she was a monster, then how else could she maintain power, except by acting like a monster?
Yes! We've defeated you for all time! You will never rise from the ashes of your shame and humiliation!
Azula finds out the limits of ruling through fear during her mission to the Boiling Rock.
The thing I don't understand is why. Why would you do it? You know the consequences.
I guess you just don't know people as well as you think you do. You miscalculated. I love Zuko more than I fear you.
No, you miscalculated! You should have feared me more!
May's stand is the beginning of the end for Azula. Without her friends, she turns to Ozai for approval.
Sorry I'm late, Father. Good palanquin bearers are so hard to come by these days. So, is everything ready for our departure?
There has been a change of plans, Azula.
What?
I've decided to lead the fleet of airships to Ba Sing Se alone. You will remain here in the Fire Nation.
In her mind, Azula did everything right. She was a loyal second-in-command who cut ties with her brother, her uncle, her mother, and her best friends for the sake of being the perfect heir. So when she did everything right, and it still looks like Ozai is discarding her, Azula cracks.
But I thought we were going to do this together.
My decision is final.
You can't treat me like this. You can't treat me like Zuko.
Azula, silence yourself.
But it was my idea to burn everything to the ground. I deserve to be by your side.
Azula!
She gets what she always wanted.
I need you here to watch over the homeland. It's a very important job that I can only entrust to you.
Really?
And for your loyalty, I've decided to declare you the new Fire Lord.
But this brief exchange shows Azula just how easy it is to slip from Ozai's favor. Because just like Azula, Ozai rules through fear. With friends who betrayed her, and a father who's less like a father and more like a constant threat, it's no wonder Azula feels paranoid. By Sozin's comment, she sees danger and disloyalty everywhere.
Azula, we heard what happened. Why have you banished all your servants, all your Dai Li agents, and the Imperial Firebenders?
None of them could be trusted. Sooner or later, they all would have betrayed me. Just like May and Ty Lee did.
And that isn't all she sees.
All right, Hare. It's time to face your doom.
What a shame. You always had such beautiful hair.
What are you doing here?
I didn't want to miss my own daughter's coronation.
Don't pretend to act proud. I know what you really think of me. You think I'm a monster.
I think you're confused. All your life you've used fear to control people, like your friends May and Ty Lee.
Well, what choice do I have? Trust is for fools. Fear is the only reliable way. Even you fear me.
No, I love you, Azula. I do.
Azula is forced to face a hard truth that she still refuses to accept. If Ursa loves Azula, no matter what, then Azula has been wrong this whole time. She doesn't have to act like a monster to be powerful. She could be loved instead of feared, and love and trust are stronger than fear and manipulation. Hearing the truth breaks Azula. When Katara defeats her in the Agni Kai, everything Azula wrote off as weak or foolish wins the day, and everything she thought was important comes crashing down. After losing the Agni Kai and her crown on the day of Sozin's Comet, Azula is institutionalized. A year later, Zuko visits her, asking her to talk to Ozai about Ursa's disappearance. She uses this opportunity to scheme her way into Zuko's mission to find their mother. The journey with Team Avatar is a tense one, and after leaping off Appa mid-flight, Azula has another hallucination of Ursa. Once again, this vision of her mother insists she loves her, an idea that Azula still can't bear to consider. The hallucinations continue, urging Azula to accept her mother's love and find her own destiny. Once Team Avatar finds Ursa in her new life, Azula confronts her mother, demanding to know why she wasn't worthy of Ursa's love. But just when it seems like Azula will finally embrace her mother, Zuko leaps in and Azula lashes out. She asks Zuko to give her the throne, begging to be rid of the nagging in her head. Zuko says the throne is his destiny, but he says that Azula has value as a person, not just as the Fire Lord. At that, Azula flees into the forest. While she's in hiding, Azula's hallucinations stop. She returns to the Fire Nation and takes on the image of Kamuri Kagi. Dressed as these dark spirits, Azula and a group of her followers begin stirring up unrest in the capital. When Zuko unmasks her, Azula attacks. She reveals that she has decided on a new destiny. By creating chaos, she'll turn Zuko into a Fire Lord who rules through fear, just like Ozai and just like Azula herself.
Relax, Fire Lord Zuko. Just let go. Give in to it.
And much to his horror, Zuko realizes that trying to stop Azula has turned him into an authoritarian ruler, just like his father. At that, Azula vanishes in smoke. Once the princess of the Fire Nation, now Azula is a shadowy figure, haunting and haunted, planning her next move.